welcome. I would like to tell you that we begin recording and we'll share the recording so everyone can see what we do. I hope no one minds. We record our meetings and we try to show them so people know what we are doing. And you can see also.
Yes.
Zaldi?
Yes. Okay, as Sergeant at Arms of the club, I'd like to call Julie to call this meeting to order.
Welcome everyone.
Thank you all.
Yes, I am the president of Witty Storytellers Online, and I am very happy you are here. All the way from Oregon to England to Philippines to Australia. And Federico, where are you now today?
Still in Poland right now.
In Holland?
Poland.
Yes. Welcome. I would like to pass the meeting to our Toastmaster of meeting, which is Michelle Albalim, who will guide us through the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President. And we have a very exciting meeting today. Our theme is a very long word, or it could be a short word if we just talk in terms of the creatures that go through metamorphosis. And these are butterflies. It is perhaps the only creature that goes through complete metamorphosis, the 4 phases. And this theme was inspired, I think, when Svetlana and I were talking about the book Hope for the Flowers, which speaks about how the butterfly transforms from a tiny caterpillar crawling on the ground, and then it becomes a pupa or a cocoon, and then finally it becomes this beautiful butterfly. What does that have to do with us? We are not caterpillars, we are not butterflies. However, we can also go through our own form of metamorphosis, changing from one type of person, maybe very shy, maybe not confident. We can also go through a metamorphosis and become very confident and very outgoing individuals and great leaders. And that's one of the things that Toastmasters helps us to do. And in this club, we strive to do that by telling stories and putting in wit into our stories. And today we have some people who will help us with roles. So let me first call on our timer. I believe Svetlana is our timer. So Svetlana, could you explain to us your role as timer? Uh-oh.
Actually, that would be me, Michelle.
Oh, okay. So it is Carol.
There were a few little changes in the meantime. And so today I'm going to use some old-fashioned devices for timing. So when you are at your minimum time limit, you will see my green paddle. And then when you reach the middle of your allotted time, you'll see the yellow. And if you reach the top of your limitation, you will see the red. And if you go over time, I guess I will make a lot of noise. Or I will begin to flash over time. Back to you, Michelle.
Right. I was thinking, thank you so much, Carol. I was thinking you were going to say, if you go over time, I will start to clap these timing devices so that they would make a lot of noise. Thank you very much, Carol. So we have our timer, and we don't usually have a however, we do have a word today, which is metamorphosis. And I know that's a really long word. However, you can use derivatives such as maybe transform or change. I think that would be fine. We're easy here as long as it connotes the same thing, change or change for the better, metamorphosis. Okay, and we have prepared, oh, because we have a guest, Agnes. Let me explain. In Toastmasters, one of the ways that we grow and learn and we have metamorphosis is by doing speeches. And the first part of our program, of our meeting, will be prepared speeches. And somebody will be listening to the speeches and offering an evaluation afterwards. That will be the later part of the meeting. We also have impromptu or unprepared speeches, which we call table topics. So that you kind of can follow along. And our prepared speaker for today is doing a project. We call all of our speeches projects, or in this club, we call them stories. In this case, though, it's really a project. She will be working on a question and answer session. So first, she will give a speech for 5 to 7 minutes, and then she will have a question and answer portion where everyone in the audience can be engaged. And she is none other than our very own club president. Let us welcome Julie Curtis.
Metamorphosis. It happened to me a lot of times. One of last time was when I was 77-year-old. I was convinced I was not funny. And one day I told a story in a theater, a personal sad story about how I changed my profession to help at the time of recession those who have to change. And what happened? Suddenly, the audience began to laugh. And once they begin, they laughed, and as they laughed, I changed. I felt better and more playful. And finally, at the end, I decided I have to discover how to make the audience laugh when I want it, not by chance. And I went to 3 stand-up comedy workshops because I found out they are the only place to learn. And then, when I finished those 3, and I will tell you a little bit what I learned from those, I went out because the last time they told me, I take you only if you commit to go out to 20 different clubs alone to give a stand-up comedy 5-minute speech. It was awful. I was really afraid at the beginning. And then I found a wonderful way. And I would like to tell you, because you can try it also. First, find in audience someone who is friendly. And put in your mind that you are telling to a friend. And that, of course, you know more or less, because that is the same in any storytelling or speaking event. The second was even more important. Instead of worrying, will they laugh or will they not laugh? Or how many times they will laugh? How strong they will laugh? I decided that each time I give myself a challenge. unrelated to laughing. For example, the first time it worked really well, I told myself, because I had seen that at the showcase I hid from the lights, and it was not very good because I was not seen well. I will remain in the light, the reflector. It was not easy. The first second, it seemed that I can see anything. But you know what? I get used to the light and I forgot the lights. And in the end, I was so happy that I did not hid from the light. I even get a few laughter, but that was beside the point because the challenge I gave myself was about something else. With the new path, Embrace Humor, we learn a lot about audience and how important they are and how to try give different humor or different version of the same thing to different audience. But Toastmaster doesn't tell us one huge secret, which I impart to you. I found out that the Toastmasters clubs are the worst audience, not the best. They are very nice usually, but they laugh very, very seldom. Why? Because usually they are used, and more older Toastmaster or more experienced Toastmaster you are, it is even worse. They are used to evaluate you. So in their mind is, does she move well? Is her voice nice? Does she make me laugh or not? Does the audience act well or not? And so on. So don't despair. You go outside or you have new members coming, they will laugh. And they perhaps even will make the other laugh, because another secret, when someone begins to laugh, the other laugh and laugh even more. So one thing I learned at the beginning is to first put away what you, audience, see about us, me, so they don't remain in their minds. She is very young. She is very old. She is, and so on. So usually I begin, I am 77 years old. So what I do in this place? And sometimes I even tell, I am single, ready to mingle, but not with you, not with you, perhaps. So I wanted to tell you some first few things, and I would like to finish telling you that yes, a joke has usually 3 parts. Setup, a second is leading to a bad direction, so your mind goes somewhere I don't want to tell, and the third is the punchline. But you don't have to tell a joke, or you don't have to tell them with words. Sometimes just going there and being what you are is the setup. And I will leave you over time. I see, thank you. I will leave you with that one words. I was always very happy to be a woman. I didn't have to shave. Is it true that women don't shave? Yes, until you get 50. And I will not tell you the rest, but there is a lot after that about women and shaving and the difference between women and men and how it happened to me. What I would like now, it is to have questions for you about humor, about how I did. And before all that, I would like to show you a picture, just very fast. Don't take yourself very seriously, because that helps. And those are different auto-portraits I took that show how different faces you can have. Yes, Graham.
Julie, I have a question, if I may. And this is something that is specific to speaking in an international group. English is not your first language. Do you find it difficult to be humorous with a group who have only one single language?
London is a place where there are people from many, many countries. And I found out that I have no problem in speaking, and I went so far to 77 different stand-up comedy clubs, and they didn't understand me. So I didn't think it is a problem of language. It's a problem of audience age, of audience expectation. I had to prove the young people who are generally in stand-up comedy that old people can be playful, can speak about sex or can speak about their problems, and then we connected. The important is first to connect, and that is very well written in Enhanced Humor. Once you connect with the audience, they are ready to understand. And the second is, you have, if you are not, your language is, first language is not English, you have to use cliché. The cliché is something like, I am single, ready to mingle, for example, or pardon my French when you tell something spicy, something which everyone heard a lot of times. It, even if you don't understand the part of it, you heard it so many times that you know what it is about. Yes.
Julie, I have a question.
Yes.
We always hear that in humor, tall tales, even in table topics, but especially in humor, it doesn't matter whether you're telling the truth or not. You can make things up, you can exaggerate. I find it really hard to get something that I read and then make it mine, because part of my brain keeps on saying, that's not true, that's not true. What's your thoughts about that?
You can tell stories from others if you want. And you can even put it in for you. I don't. As for me, I have enough true things to tell, to mock them, to see it differently, but I do exaggerate it. I do play with it. You don't have to tell, even in storytelling, the truth, the whole truth, and only the truth. You don't have to tell the names. You can invent dialogues, and you can play a little bit with the audience. So I tell, for example, about when I speak about my cataract operations, I will tell, you know, it seems that size is very important. No, don't believe it. It can be very important sometimes. After my cataract operation, I had a tool near my bed, always there for me, because then size was important. Here it is. And I could read with any kind of characters. So I played a little bit with the audience. When it was Brexit, 3 years ago, I went to a stand-up comedian. Many other stand-up comedians spoke about Brexit, which I didn't like. And for Agnes, Brexit is named in England. When they decided in small majority to go out of European Union, and I told them it is true that size is not important, but then what it is important? To be in and not out. I am in because I am French. So it was true, it was what I felt. It was not invented, but it was squeezed a little bit. Yes. Who wants to ask question? Tiger? Unmute yourself first. Yes.
Yes, Julie, my question would be, when you start out with your comedy routine, you're 30, 40 seconds into it, and you can tell that the audience is not responding, what kind of change, what kind of transformation do you make or can you make?
So at the beginning, you try to connect with the audience and tell them something. A short story, a long story. An older comedian who had been gigging for 30 years told me they test the audience with a joke to see if they like those kind of jokes or not. And if it works, they go for them, let's say, lefty jokes, and if not, they go back and try something else. I went once to Dublin to tell stories, personal stories, in a bank to older women or men, but there were more women there. And I told myself I have to be very careful. They can be religious, they can be very like that straight. And I told myself I have to speak an hour. So beside myself, let's put a little bit of my comedy in it. And I opened one of my stories, and in the middle I put a little bit more peppers, let's say, something, and then I asked them, what do you want to speak? What do you want me to speak about? Do you want me to tell when I lied first time? Or do you want me to tell you when I had first a one-night stand? Or do you want me to tell? And they told, I want everything. And finally, I found out they were more open than I believed. And I told them all, and they enjoyed and wanted more and more. And for 1.5 hours, they didn't let me go. So, and other times you have less luck. I went with my first humorous speech to Zal the Emperor, and I had all well-prepared things to make them laugh. And you know what happened? Nothing. 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 And at the end, I told them, you know, it is very strange that here I try really to make people laugh because that is my project. And yesterday I was to my London Lewisham Club with a lot of new guests and new Toastmaster, and I didn't have to make them laugh, and they did laugh. And then they begin to laugh at me. And I have to tell you, I met one of the young women who did not laugh at my long speech, and I told them that story, that you don't have always the audience laugh from what you do. And she began to laugh because she remembered. Well, Agnes, do you want to ask something?
Okay. I think you are a person that is enthusiastic about many things in your life. So have you tried something else than speeches in your leisure time? Something you think is a great challenge?
Yes, for example, taking picture of people was a great challenge, and I tried. But stand-up comedy was a huge challenge for me when I began. And it was a real metaphor for this when I realized that looking at my life with comedian eyes, it means looking, is this situation happened? How can I make laugh with it? It was a huge metamorphosis for myself. And now I will give back to Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julie. That was very helpful. As you know, I am also working on the engaging humor path, and that is one of the biggest challenges for me. Humor is difficult for me when I try to be funny, just like you said, Julie. When I don't try to be funny, people tell me, you are so funny, and I just have to scratch my head. From that project, which was, for Agnes' sake, you might be wondering, that seemed to be a very long speech or a very long conversation. That was special. That was what we called a speech with a question and answer session. Our usual speeches in Toastmasters is 5 to 7 minutes. In fact, our next speaker is going to be doing a 5 to 7 minute speech. And for this, it is a project on from Pathways, which is to inspire your audience. And the purpose of this project is to help the member to practice writing and delivering a speech that inspires others or to inspire the audience. So for this, the speaker can speak about something engaging, entertaining, or moving. And such a coincidence, the speech is entitled Metamorphoses. Let us all welcome Zaldi Ko.
It was the year 2005. I entered a room. I see a round table with a red tablecloth and with a lazy Susan in the middle of the table. It was my very first Toastmasters meeting. And it was the function room of a top rated Chinese restaurant. And to top it all, the owner of that restaurant is also our member who eventually became a president of the club. While for the next 2 years, I was just relaxing and enjoying the sumptuous dinners every every first and third Wednesdays of the month till 2 years later, till that after that 2 years, as I did my very first evaluation. Imagine from the very first day I joined Toastmasters, it took me 2 years to do my first evaluation. And at the time, I had already done three speeches in the span of 2 years. And uh, in that evaluation, it was an icebreaker evaluation, and it gave me an idea to contribute to the club to mm, so I could show them how I do some of the things. So I put up a web presence and got a club that was struggling at that time with 6 members to 20 members at the end of the year. And it was our very first President's Distinguished Award after 4 years of existence for the club. I was then asked to be the president of the following year. And I did just that. And I had one problem. I was also named president of another club that had 0 members. Then I met Keith Ostergaard, Mike Rafferty, George Marshall, and Brian Dodd in my very first internet experience of Toastmasters outside the Toastmasters website. So they gave me a lot of insights, and later I served as I got into the district, and along with the dirty politics that goes with it, and I served as an area governor, lost twice as a division governor, and served twice as a district webmaster. So in 2014, I bought a book, Leadership Hacks. And it taught me to look for my or search my blind spots in leadership. I was successfully able to revive a dying club around more than 10 years ago, but I had a pre-charter club that I could not get off the ground for the last 2 years. And recently, another member of the club told me, uh, fill up all the roles in the officers lineup. And I thought I had one leadership gap there. I was doing things alone this time around when 10 years ago, I had somebody working with me. Then I joined Firebirds and Witty Storytellers online. So, looking back at the 14 years of my Toastmasters experience, I was reflecting, is this all there is in Toastmasters? Just speaking, and only the impact is only within Toastmasters? Well, what I have gained through all these years, communication, leadership, and working with online platforms, and combining all these things is my next step. Taking the lead in delivering online courses. This is my next chapter. Wish me luck.
Thank you very much, Zaldi. That was inspiring to see how you transitioned, how you made that metamorphosis indeed from somebody who just sat there and just came for the meals and did not do an evaluation until his second year to trying twice to be division director and doing all of that other Toastmaster projects and involvement. Great job and very inspiring. Let us now move from those presentations which were prepared to one of my favorite segments, the unprepared segment. Unprepared for the speakers, but of course our table topics master is prepared to ask the questions. So let us welcome now, I think in Poland, if I heard right, I never really know where Federico is because he travels around so much and he always brings so much energy and excitement when he comes to our meetings. So I'm looking forward to Federico leading us as the table topics master. Welcome, Federico.
Thank you very much, Jill. As we know, life is about transformations. And today in the morning, sorry, sometimes I am confused about the day or the night since I'm attending on Thursdays at the same time to meetings. But let's focus on about questions about transformation in our life. And the first person who will answer the question is going to be Carol. Her question is, what was the greatest transformation in your life in the recent years? So Carol, please go to the stage.
Toastmaster Federico, my butterfly moment, a transformation in recent times. Well, I could tell you about some transformations in olden times, and maybe I'll have time to share those with you. But now that I have the stage, let me think about what was the transformation for me in recent times. And I think in Toastmaster language, it would be the improvement in my leadership skills. I came from someone in the wings who would be happy to be led by many people, to coming out in front and to lead people online. And that for me was a transformation, because although some people say I'm a confident person, I wasn't. I didn't really have that confidence as a leader. I love being too icy. I'm very good at following, but I've learned now how to be out the front and how to be a leader as well. So for me, in recent times, that would be the transformation that I would share with you today. And if I go back in time, seeing I have 30 seconds left, I would have to say that some of the transformations that I've experienced come in 10-year waves, starting at around 20, because I remember doing speeches about going back over my life in those 10-year spans. And there's so many things, if you think about it, that happen to you in each decade that help you grow a little bit more. And I think I would like to do a speech about that again and tell you what I was like at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. I think I could do a minute on each, and that'd make it about 7 minutes. But thank you so much for asking the question. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Carol. Now I would like to invite Graham to the next question. What can you change in your life, but you don't want to change, Graham?
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, what could I change in my life that I don't want to change? Now there is a series of questions rather than just one. I could, for example, lose the weight, which keeps my diabetes bubbling away. If I were to lose weight, then I'm quite sure that my blood sugar levels would come down. I'd not need to take medication. I'd actually be much better off. But quite frankly, I like my food. I mean, you probably can't tell this from my shape, but I actually genuinely like my tucker. I could learn to do things when they need to be done rather than leaving them till the last possible moment. Now, that would take much of the stress out of my life and would make me a much more efficient person. But then I wouldn't be me, because procrastination is part of my life. I have to say that there has been a metamorphosis from the Graham Cairns of old, who would leave things not only until the last moment, but beyond the last moment. At least I've learned to get them done in time. But there are so many things that I could change in my life. But then again, I have to say, I am extraordinarily lucky. I live in a country that I love. I live with a woman that I love. I get to travel around the world for pleasure in a way that my forebears never had the opportunity to do. I work in a job that I love. I teach, which is something that I love, although I must say I don't teach for love, I teach for money. I just love doing it. So I'm not sure that I would change all that much, because if I change one thing, who knows what else will change? The worm, the grub, when it climbs into its cocoon, does not know that it is going to metamorphosize into a butterfly. It might not want to. It may wish to remain a silkworm, but it can't. I guess change is inevitable. So what could I change, but I don't? Lots. Will I change them? There's another question. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Graham. Now let's move to Tiger. Now if you had a second opportunity in your life to change anything, would you take it or not?
So thank you for that question, Mr. Toastmaster, Topics Master. Could you repeat that question again one more time?
If you had a second opportunity in your life to change something that didn't work, would you take that opportunity or not?
Well, in my case, that's an absolute yes. I would go back. I was married for 22 years, and I had 2 adopted children, and I managed to fail at that. So the simple answer to your question is yes. Would I go back and like the opportunity to make that work? Absolutely. That is a regret that I will take with me the rest of my life. Where I'm at now is I am in the process of making a transformation. You can't go back. I can't go back and change that. So I'm trying to be the best person I can and move on and be a benefit to other people. And I think that's really the story of life. I think we all have regrets. We all have things that we wish we could change. But now is now and the future is coming. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you, sir. Very good question.
Thank you very much. And hopefully you will have more opportunities about everything that is coming on. Now, the next one is going to be for Saldi. If you could change one thing about the world, what is that thing that you want to change?
That's a tough question because there are so many things I want to change. There's so many problems we have. And I think the one thing I could change, if I could change the world and play God, is to eliminate greed from the world. That will definitely solve a lot of problems. If you're poor, somebody will be generous and not greedy to help you. If you're rich, you will just do the opposite, help out the less fortunate. And if we won't be seeing the likes of maybe Bill Gates or many of those billionaires, maybe they'll just be, instead of having 100 billion, maybe they'll just have 25 billion and give 75 billion away. So in a world without greed, imagine what would happen. Back to you, Rodrigo.
Thank you. Now let's move to Agnes. I would like to ask you, what is the greatest experience that transformed your life and why?
Please pardon. I didn't hear it clearly.
What was the greatest experience that transformed your life, that changed it, and why it changed after that?
I think it's I had an English club in our school, and what I did in that school changed my life path. I was a very shy girl when I was very young, and in that club, our English teacher inspired me a lot, and she encouraged me to take part in some English speech competition, and I followed her advice and trained trained maybe like in front of the mirror, and there was some talent show part in our national English competition, and I also improved some of other abilities, like do the aerobics in front of some audience, and to combine it with my English speech. And I mean, it greatly widened my view and broaden my horizon, because I can never think I can do something so interesting in front of so many people. And that not only changed my personality, but also my way of thinking. Because I need to do some prepared and unprepared speech. So I have forced myself to do some quick thinking to make the logic of my to make my speeches more logical, and it just changed my mind. So it also changed my life path because I therefore got a chance to study in UK, and I have admitted by the university in UK now, and I think it's very just my dream, and it makes me realize my dream. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Amazing.
Thank you.
So now we're moving to Michelle this time. In your case, Michelle, what is the greatest change that you have done in somebody else's life?
Wow. That is a difficult question in the sense that I was thinking if you were going to ask me, like you asked the others, I could answer that. But the greatest change in somebody else's life, that would be best answered by that person. So I can only guess. I could only offer a guess and say that perhaps the greatest change that the greatest impact I made on someone was, there was this young man many years ago when I joined a company as the HR manager. My team told me, they pointed to that young man, his name was Philip, and they said, oh, Philip, he is the problem. He is the most, he is our worst problem employee. And I was on my first day at work. And here I was already hearing that that person is the problem employee of human resources. So I said, why? Why do you consider him as a problem employee? And they said, oh, he's always absent and he goes off and is sick. But then during the basketball game, he shows up, and he is sick during the day, but then he goes out for karaoke. And I mean, they had so many reasons. And I said, well, I need to talk with him. So I met with Philip and I spoke with him. I asked him about his life, asked him to tell me about his family. And I discovered he was the lone breadwinner. His father was not working, his sisters were not working, his mother, nobody in the family, his uncles. He had everything on his shoulders. So when somebody got sick, he had to take care of that. But he would still show up for his commitment with basketball because he was very good. And so I told him, Philip, I need you to prove people wrong. I need you to help me help you. I want you to do certain things. And we made this commitment. The following year, he was awarded Employee of the Year. And I mean, to this day, when I think about it, I just tear up because from problem employee, he became Employee of the Year. So that was a metamorphosis, a transformation. And thank you for reminding about it. Back to you.
Now we're moving to the last one, to Julie. Julie, in your case, you have had multiple transformations. But if you can choose one that was the most significant in your life, which one was and why? Only one.
I understand. I think the most significant transformation in my life one was when I decided after 15 years that I cannot go anymore with my dreams and remain married to someone who is cheating on me again and again and again. And I decided enough is enough. And I separated myself and took with my 2 children and told him I don't want anymore to be married. And a year later, I went with my children in America, and we stayed 3 years. And from the one-man woman, I begin to experience different men to see if I am really a bad lover and why my husband cheats on me again and again, and discover Toastmasters, because there were men, a lot of men there, and discovered a lot of things about myself and got my second chance in life. I had many other things happening and I had to go back to France and so on. But I think that was the most significant decision I had to take, and I'm happy I did it.
Thank you very much, Julie. And this is all from me from today. Coming back to you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Federico. I would not use the phrase, "this is all from me," because that was a lot. The questions you asked were very, very thought-provoking. And I don't think I was the only one who was transported into either the past or a different aspect of ourselves by your questions. Very powerful table topic session. And thank you so much. The other thing I loved is that you involved all of us, including our guest Agnes, which gave us the pleasure of listening to her. Thank you so much, Federico. At this point, Agnes, this is where I mentioned earlier we have segments. This is the segment where we have feedback, where we grow and learn by hearing what we did well and what we could improve. And to lead us in that, we have different club formats. Other clubs, we bring up the general evaluator to lead in this segment. In this club, it's still me, the Toastmaster, so I will do that with pleasure. Our first evaluator, who will be evaluating our first speaker, Julie, has a very tough challenge because that was a long project, 20 minutes. However, he is up to it because he is a tiger and he is also our speech champion for our club contest. You missed that 2 months ago. Let us welcome Tiger McKendy.
Thank you, Michelle. So, Julie, that was quite an involved project. I enjoyed the beginning. You told a story, and you did it sequentially, and led us through a transformation. And I've heard you say this before, but I love I was 77 years old, and I did not think I was funny. And all of a sudden I started talking and people were laughing. There were some things that you said that I really enjoyed. You said I was convinced that I was not funny. You said I gave myself a challenge. And then when you were talking about the class that you took, you said it was a wonderful way to start. And I think you were referring to the fact that you had to go out to these clubs and just kind of force yourself to do this. Pardon me, I'm trying to read my own notes here. I thought it was hilarious when you said that Toastmasters are a horrible audience. We don't laugh as readily as people, and I think when you go to a comedy club, people they're there, they want to laugh, and in Toastmasters maybe we're not quite as anxious. Your photos were fantastic. That was a really wonderful depiction of how different you can be. Your question and answer session went very well, and I really appreciate the fact that you made an attempt to get everyone to participate, including Agnes. I thought that was really well done. So overall, I think your speech was very well done. It was sequential. It clearly showed a transformation. The question and answer session was interesting. You got a lot of good questions. People were obviously engaged. I do have some recommendations. I think that would make improvements. When you talk about some of the challenges you had with your humor and people didn't laugh, I think it would be really great if you could give an example, like a joke that you said in a club and nobody laughed, or something that you said that you didn't think was funny and people were laughing, or an experience like one club that maybe you went to that was a really difficult audience and what you did to overcome that. Just some kind of specific stories as opposed to just general things. The other thing is to change your pace. You have a pace that you go at, and you pretty much stay on the same pace the whole time. So to change your pace, maybe some dramatic pauses here and there, maybe your voice, fluctuate your voice a little bit, just something to add a little bit more emphasis where you want it. And then the last thing was time management. And of course, this was a long project, but I do believe that you went over on your time, especially with the question answer session. But overall, thank you very much. That was a pleasure. I could have listened to you for another 20 minutes, easy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiger. And I kept on glancing down at my stopwatch as you were talking about time management and thinking, don't demonstrate the same thing. You made it. So for our next speaker, we have another very experienced evaluator. I always look forward to her evaluations. Let us welcome Carol.
Thank you, Toastmaster Michelle. Will you please time me? Thank you very much. What do you think about our butterfly Zaldi now? We were all very thrilled to hear how he came through from his time as the early caterpillar in Toastmasters, right through that stage where he was coming of age, right up until when he was really fluttering his wings. His transformation was done expertly in his speech today. This is what I really liked about the speech today, Zaldi. You peeled away some layers of you that I didn't know. And so we got to know you quite a bit more on your journey. What I liked when you said things like dirty politics, you made me laugh. And I would like to recommend that you try to do that more often, because it's your dry wit that really makes people giggle and laugh. Your success story was most engaging. And I have to say that I think you have put yourself through the paces quite a lot. And some of the lessons that you learned along the way were graciously shared with us today. And they are inspiring because it helps other people know that you can move from being a shy, inarticulate person to a very confident person on the stage. I wanted to know a little bit more about that book that you liked. And I think it was Blind Spots in, there we go, Hacking Leadership. Thank you. If you had done that in your speech, or maybe you did and I missed it, I think I would have been happier with that. So another little tip for you. I think you've been a bit of a glutton for punishment along your journey. AD and DD twice. That is also inspiring because it shows people that even as you do a role and you think to yourself, well, maybe I'll just do it for one time and then let it go. No, you liked it so much and you excelled at it that you did it again. Or you liked it and you felt you could improve it, so you did it again. That is inspiring. I'm myself considering being an AD again for that very reason, because I think I can do better at it. One other little thing that is a little annoying, you might be able to do it technically because you are a technology wizard. When you're working from your notes, can you put them up higher so that you're not looking down somewhere for your reminders? I'm sure you could do that on a double screen, or maybe you could use blue tack and a piece of paper on the side of your screen. That would work too. I really enjoyed listening to your story of transformation today, Zaldi, and I know the audience did because I looked around to see how they were receiving it. And just as a little tip for you, your favourite filler words are that one, are, and so. Overall, a very inspiring speech done within the time limit. Thank you so much, Zaldi. Back to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Carol, and a very inspiring evaluation. You offered great gems or good things, and then you also offered some suggestions for improvement. Great job there. And speaking about evaluation, we are at that point where we will have our general evaluator, but maybe not. Maybe we should hear first from our timer, although I almost forgot her because she already has all the time on the chat. But just for the sake of those who might not be looking at the chat, let us welcome our timer. Let's welcome back Carol, sorry.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. I did put a report in, and I was trying to do it in a hurry, knowing that I was coming up to be evaluator. So I'll run through them correctly for you this time. Speaker number 1, Julie, first part of the session was 8:51, and the second part was 12:32. So just a little bit over the allotted 20 minutes. Speaker number 2 was Zaldi, well within time at 6:24. Then the table topics. Myself, 2:15, Graham, 2:10, Tiger, 1:15, Zaldi, 2:18, Agnes, 2:28, and Michelle, 2:24, and Julie, 2:14. Then the evaluations, Tiger was 3 minutes 30, and I've no idea how long I took. Michelle might tell me. Back to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much. For this, you took 52 seconds, and for your evaluation, you had a human clock timing you. You ended at exactly 3 minutes and 30 seconds, which means if it was a contest, you would have just qualified. Thank you so much, Carol.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yes, thank you. At this point, we would like to hear how we did overall in our meeting. And we have just the right person to do that. Another very experienced, distinguished Toastmaster. Let us welcome Graham.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought it was quite a good meeting today. We were fairly small, but we metamorphosized into something much larger than ourselves. The meeting started about a minute late, but we were welcoming our guests, so I think that's perfectly acceptable. The Toastmaster tonight did, I think, a pretty good job. Michelle explained the word of the day to the members and made sure that most of us used it in one form or another. One of the things that Michelle did that I thought was particularly good was she also explained the role of the speeches to our guest and also the role of evaluation to Agnes, which I thought was a nice touch. And it's useful to remind us. One of the things that Michelle might have spent a little more time on, though, was reminding us of how long each event goes. For example, evaluators weren't reminded that their time was to be 2 to 3 minutes. As it turns out, the evaluators all worked within their allotted time. But as Toastmaster, it's a good practice to remind members of what it is that they are expected to do. For Agnes, I will say, by the way, on the subject of time, the reason that we have a timekeeper, the reason that we keep watching our time is not because we are fixated on time, but because in a meeting, whether it's a Toastmasters meeting, a business meeting, a meeting of your committee at university, whatever, there is a certain amount of time that is allocated for tasks. And if you take more than your allocated time, then effectively you are stealing somebody else's. So that's why we look at times. But the Toastmaster, as I say, I think did a terrific job today of keeping everything moving. The Topics Master, Federico, had some really good short questions. And one of the things about Table Topics questions is that the questions should be shorter than the answer. But we've all seen circumstances where the table topic goes on and on and on. Now, I would make a few suggestions, if I may, for Federico, and in fact for anybody who is presenting table topics. One is to, in a club like this, where the table topics comes up immediately after the speakers, so if you're going to be asking the evaluators of those speeches to give a table topic, leave them till last, because they're still frantically scribbling down their notes from their evaluation. So leave them for last. I'd also suggest that you should let members know of their timing. Now, because most of us are experienced Toastmasters, we know that the traditional time for a table topic is 1 to 2 minutes, and that we will get an indication at 1 minute, 1.5, and 2 minutes. But Agnes, for example, wasn't given that notice. As it turns out, she spoke for a near perfect time of 2:24, which was, you know, for a table topic, excellent. And I'll get to her table topic in a moment. But if you are Topics Master, remind your participants of what it is that they are supposed to do. Also remind them of what it is that they are supposed to do. One other thing, and I understand the reason why a lot of table topics masters, particularly in an online circumstance, tell people who's going to speak and then give them the topic, because it allows them time to turn their microphone on. But I like giving the topic first and then announcing the speaker for two reasons. One, everybody has to think about it, but two, there is a certain disconnect which we have when we don't have to think about a topic. And so we don't respond and therefore don't evaluate the table topics participants, which is something that we should all be doing, even if we're not the official evaluator. Having said that, though, I thought that the questions were thought-provoking and really interesting. Carol's table topic on leadership started out sort of, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but then she really hit her straps, and I thought was a really good example of a table topic. My structure I thought was all right, but I wish I could remember that they were called caterpillars, not grubs. A tiger, he did something that should always be done in a table topic. If you don't quite hear the question, ask again. Would you mind repeating the question, please? Well done, Tiger, on doing that. And also, by the way, well done, Agnes, on doing the same. Agnes was lovely. She was confident. She gave praise to her English teacher. She had some lovely turns of phrase like widening my horizons. And, you know, I thought it was really well done. Michelle talked around until she finally realized where she was going to go and then told us a story, and it was a really good story. The story that we got from Julie was brutally honest, but it opened up to us all. Tiger's evaluation gave good recommendations, particularly about specific examples, but it was all spoken to Julie. And one of the things that I would suggest, Tiger, is rather than just talking to one person, talk to everybody in the room, because that allows us to have an educational experience for everybody. But you showed that you were listening. Tiger, I think, needed to look at the specifics of how Julie handled the question and answer period, because that was something that perhaps was not the strongest part of Julie's presentation. On the subject of looking at specifics, Carol, I love the butterfly analogy that Carol began by saying that Zaldi had emerged and had his metamorphosis. I also love that she pointed to the use of the book, holding the book up to demonstrate the point that she was making, but she didn't actually refer to what I call the elephant in the room. The fact that while Zaldi was reading from his notes, there were a number of times that his computer did not work, and that placed extended pauses while he was searching for his place. Michelle and Carol as timers were fun and efficient. I think that this was a particularly well-conducted meeting tonight. We won't have time, I don't believe, to hold our elections, which should be held this evening, particularly since the General Evaluator has gone overtime. But I think a good meeting. I enjoyed being here. I'm glad that everybody came along, and I will now hand control back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Graham. I always think I speak fast, but when I listen to you, I speak really slowly compared to Graham. Thank you so much. You covered so much. And at this point, I want to thank everyone for helping me to make my role as Toastmaster so fascinating and so easy. I just regret that some people who were supposed to be here couldn't make it because of internet issues or other issues. And I want to bring back now our club president. Let's welcome back Julie.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, I think also that Graham spoke so fast that you had to know well English to take everything on. But he has such a clear voice because of his radio presence that usually we understand everything better than when I speak slowly, even. So I would like now to have the, a few words from our guest. As Moise went away, I think I would like to hear first from Carol, who is he is often our guest and past member, but he's still a guest now.
Thank you. I love being a guest here. I like the stories, and I especially was so impressed with our guest today. You're right in the middle of my screen, Agnes, and I'm just so delighted to have met you here today and to hear from you of your own story. That was excellent. And I've just looked over to the chat and seen Graham's praise for me with a triple E. I hadn't heard of the triple E before. Empathetic, enthusiastic, encouraging. Well, I think that sums up the meeting, actually. Back to you.
Thank you. Agnes, can you tell me what was your impression of our meeting today?
I think everyone is very friendly, and you give me a lot of advice and encouragements. And I love your life story, and I really admire your lives. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. I hope you will come in 2 weeks' time and be with us again.
Thank you.
Now, I'll have to tell you that in May there is a election time, and if not today, but I hope in 2 weeks' time, we will have our election for the next year committee. I am so happy that Graham accepted to be our VP for the next time. We will have election. It means that if everyone wants any real role, which is or not already proposed, he can stand up. It is called stand up from the floor and give a 2-minute speech and compete for the role, even if it is already filled by the election committee. So,
Well, good luck with all of that. I must go. My 4G is over limit. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Today. Oh, she left.
So today,
soon.
other than Metamorphose, which was a team elected or chosen by Svetlana, it is also Remembrance Day.
Okay.
So I think if you want, we can, after closing the recording, to remember the Remembrance Day and speak a little bit about it. Svetlana came and she told me that her husband, ex-husband, the father of her children, died last year, and she had all her family and children from America in summer camp to go and remember, and for her to remember her mother. We remember in remembrance